Hey all, and welcome back to Fuzzy Dirty Gaming and a new video on the channel. For anyone who watched my last video, I started the current invasion event with an Infernal Blow Slayer, but it did not perform as well as I'd hoped and was going to be very difficult to get the build strong enough to get 4 Void Stones and get a bit more involved with the event because there is quite limited trade. I was, however, having a lot of fun playing POE again, so I decided to do something I'd never normally do and just look for a meta build guide that I could follow. Now, I normally like to work builds out myself and play off meta skills. The problem with doing this is that my knowledge in the game in general has gotten quite stale. Outside of elemental melee attack builds, I really don't know how to build characters, so it made much more sense to follow a build guide, understand how the skills interact with each other, learn something new, and hopefully have some fun. I'll put some links in the video description for some build guides for this particular skill because it was very popular this league. Now, the skill I decided on was by watching TieTieKiller's tier list video and a few live streams. He's been leveling various popular builds in SSF to 4 Void Stones and then rating the build as bait or based. The strongest build looked like Lightning Strike, but that's not really deviating from the kind of builds I normally play, and I've played Lightning Strike for like 5 years. The build I settled on was Ice Nova of Frostbolts, Mana Hierophant. I've never really looked at starting this as lots of people were saying it takes uniques to feel good, takes currency to work, but TieTieKiller kind of dispelled this by getting 4 Void Stones on what I would say was pretty mediocre SSF gear. The build was really easy to level. You go from Rolling Magma into Firestorm, into Archmage Firestorm, and then when you finally pick up the Ice Nova gem, you can switch to the final setup. The build felt really strong defensively once I got to maps and got some gear. In a campaign, I did feel pretty squishy, but I got through it. It might be because I'm not used to this playstyle that I just wasn't positioning correctly or actually playing very well. Once you get the build going, it's got insane ES leech. It's really easy to get 90% plus spell suppression with lucky. You get decent evasion. You combine this with a huge mana pool that takes damage for you. If you keep casting, you feel incredibly tanky against all but the biggest threats. Now, this is a build that felt really strong, so much so that I would not be surprised to see it get obliterated next league, which would be a shame because this is the most fun I've had in the game in a long time. Now, considering we're logging in again to do Settlers for like the 100th time, I'm very surprised that actually when I get home from work or I've got some spare time at the weekend, I actually want to play this build. If you still want to play PoE and you want to try a build out, 100% recommend this build. It is a ton of fun, very easy going. It is quite button heavy, but once you get used to it and you get used to the playstyle, it is a lot of fun. There are ways you can automate certain things. I haven't done that because I don't have the gear, but in the build guides, I will explain how you can automate certain aspects of the build. So for people who haven't played this sort of build before, it's been around forever, but was never massively strong because this Ice Nova Frostbolts didn't exist. It was just normal Ice Nova, and they tend to be done on either cast on crit or really crit heavy, investment heavy builds. Now you can literally get this build together on a shoestring. So the way it works is you would have your Ice Nova of Frostbolts, and then you would have a Frostbolt. You cast a Frostbolt, you then hold Ice Nova, and they will travel along with the Frostbolt, casting multiple times and overlapping. If you get returning projectiles on your Frostbolts, they'll come back to you as well. There's different ways, as I say, you can play this. You can use the Kitava's Thirst, which actually automates a lot of the hard work because it is a 2-button build. It turns it into a 1-button build. There's things you could do to automate curses, but it is quite button heavy. And that's kind of it. You don't really need to do anything. There isn't much that can kill you once you get half decent gear. Because it's an energy shield build, there are some things that are dangerous. Chaos damage early on, any sort of damage over time, poison, ignite, burning ground, things like that can cause you a few problems because your energy shield is just going to go down and down. But as long as there's enemies around for you to leech from, I've never had too much of an issue. I did die quite a bit in the campaign, as I said, but I think that's just because I wasn't used to leveling casters. How I can get through Deathless on a crap melee character but can't get through on like a meta spell build, I don't know, so I definitely need more practice. Now, as I said, I haven't leveled this from scratch on SSF because I had most of my Atlas clear when I gave up on my last character, but I didn't use any currency from that character to make this one. I wanted to see how it felt as a fresh start, and it did feel really good. At times in the campaign, I did feel squishy. I did feel like I either wanted more life or some grace to get some evasion, but because you rely on your mana a lot, it's difficult to do. So I think if I leveled it again, I swapped to Archmage really early at level 31. I'll probably wait until later on, once you've done your third lab, because then you're going to feel more tanky, you're going to have more life, you're going to have more mana, and I would just probably play it as a straight up caster next time I play. So just to give you an idea of the sort of gear that this build can function on, I'm not blowing bosses away by any means, but I've completed a few Guardian maps, I've done some destructive play, I haven't died in any of them, I've felt comfy, and the bosses have gone down quick enough. So to go through my trash gear, the one thing you're going to want to do if you play this build is put profane wands on your loot filter. They come with an implicit cast speed, and cast speed and mana are pretty much king in this build. If you can stack your mana, stack your cast speed, you're going to get an absolute ton of damage. Combine that with some percentage spell damage or lightning damage, and you're pretty much good to go. So I have one wand with mediocre spell damage, pretty much the lowest tier of mana you can get, and crafted cast speed. They've got another one with crafted mana, half decent cast speed, very, very bad spell damage, and some lightning damage to spells. Everything else is literally just mediocre self-crafted gear through just spamming harvest or essences. I've run out of embers and ichor, so most of my implicits don't do anything at all. So got this helmet with mediocre life, bad mana, decent cold resistance and dexterity. Got an amulet, which is actually pretty good. It's got cast speed, mana, and mana regen on it. Crafted life, and then we've got soul siphon as an anoint just to get some more mana because it was a nice cheap anoint. Valakos sign is quite an important ring for me because it keeps you alive a lot. It gives you more damage against shocked enemies, and you are going to shock every enemy. Gives you a little bit of mana. More importantly, it gives you 1% of damage leached as life against shocked enemies. So with your energy shield leech that you're going to get from the tree and your leech from your life, it does feel really, really good when you do get caught out and you suddenly get attacked by lots of things. You can leech both of those back really comfortably because the amount of times and the amount of damage that you're hitting with. The other ring is just, yeah, bad. It's not even got life on it. It's got some cast speed, some resistance, tiny bit of mana, and a little bit of dexterity. The gloves, as I mentioned, don't have any implicits that are any good because I've run out of currency. This is mediocre life and some resistances and crafted mana. The belt is okay. It's got decent resistances, but not a lot else. And then it's got crafted life. And the boots are pretty bad as well. The 20% movement speed, life, and some lightning resistance. I haven't really rolled my flask properly either. We've got a jade flask with evasion. We've got a quartz flask with chance to avoid being shocked, chance to avoid being stunned on an onslaught, silver flask, and then just a quicksilver flask. I haven't got a lot of currency, so I've kind of done what I can with the flask. But this is kind of the experience that I wanted because I wanted to see what this build feels like on a fresh start with very little gear and on a 5-link, and it feels amazing. The one good thing I would say about this build is there's not really any pressure to get a 6-link because I think if I did get a 6-link now, I wouldn't be able to use it anyway because I think my mana cost would get out of control. It's already 155 mana per cast, and that's with inspiration, which other than lowering mana cost does very little for the build. So if we were to add another link in, that's probably going to go up to like 200 mana. I'm already, even with a big mana pool and a level 19 or 20 clarity, there are times when I would like my mana regen to be a little bit better. So it is a build that does function early on better on a 5-link because you just can't take the mana for 6-link skills on very, very basic gear. You do path through and buy quite a few jewel sockets, but I haven't found any. The only jewel I've got in is pretty bad. It's reduced effective chill and a tiny bit of cast speed. The tree is a fairly straightforward one. You're basically just taking mana and cast speed and some lightning damage, and then I've taken some suppression nodes because I want to try and make the build a little tankier. Elemental overload because you're going to be critting because you get power charges as a Hierophant from your ascendancy, so you are going to be critting often enough that this is up 100% of the time, and it's 40% more elemental damage. We're obviously going to be taking mind over matter so that damage is taken from mana before life, and then a lot of different mana masteries to help us out. So we've got 10% of damage recouped as mana, 10% reduced mana cost of skills, and 10% chance to recover some mana when you use a skill. And these all add up to a very, very nice portfolio of buffs for your mana. In terms of ascendancy, I went power charges first because that means my elemental overload is always going to proc. Then I've gone for divine guidance, then sanctuary thought, and then arcane blessing. All the labs felt an absolute breeze, especially once you get your archmage setup going. There's not really much Azaro can do to cause you damage. In the traps, you've got mana, energy shield, and life to save you. It was one of the most comfortable builds to get through the 4 labs. That's kind of it for the build, because I don't need to do a build guide on someone else's build. I just wanted to give you my experience and say it is a ton of fun. And if this doesn't get touched, this is 100% going to be my starter for the next league. It's easy to get going, it's comfortable, it's fun, but more importantly, it is pretty tanky on very low budget. It's not all pros. The skill is eye cancer on the screen. It's absolutely horrendous. I've got a alt quality or MTX on my Frostbolts because the first Frostbolt was stuttering my computer a little bit. So I've got one now that's this black celestial one, I think it's called, and then I've just got the normal Ice Nova. But you've got to bear in mind, when you've got lots of enemies on the screen and you're throwing out lots of these projectiles and then you're holding your Ice Nova, you can't really see anything. You can't see ground effects, you can't see enemies. So it's a good job the build is fairly tanky because you really can't see anything. Because of this, I don't think it's a build I'll play league after league after league, because I think I'd get a little bit sick of it. There is a build I do want to look at, which is Ball of Lightning Orbital, where it spins around you. It works the same way. You can use Archmage, you can use slow projectiles, and you can overlap your damage. It is, from my practice, much weaker than this build, but it's much less buttons and you can actually see what you're doing. So it might be that if this survives, or I may even do another playthrough, I'll start this, and then when I've got some currency, I'll go to the Ball Lightning version. Because Uberdan's got a POB on YouTube and his build's pretty much perfect, so I know I'm in safe hands following his guides. It can also be a little bit temperamental, because without stun immunity, you get stunned out of your Frostbolts quite often, and just your Ice Nova on its own is not going to do much damage. So you might be standing in the pack thinking you've chucked out a Frostbolt and you haven't, and then you're standing there Ice Nova in some really tanky enemies, and then they'll kill you. But overall, absolute ton of fun. Highly recommend it if someone's still looking for a build to play. All the build guides are in the video description. What I may do with this one next is actually start an SSF run with it. I would like to see what it is like actually clearing the Atlas. I tried to sort of simulate it and go white maps, yellow maps, red maps, and then start tackling Guardians and stuff at level 89, but I didn't have to actually do the Atlas clear. So I would be curious just to see what sort of time I could do it. I'm not a quick player. I very, very rarely get my Atlas clear and 4 Void Stones in like under 20 hours. I'm normally multiple days to do it because I procrastinate a lot, I faff, I don't do maps particularly quickly, I AFK my hideout a lot. So what I might do, because I am really enjoying the skill, is do a fresh start and see how quickly I can get it done. I'm obviously going to be hours and hours behind races, because it takes me like 5.5 hours to do the campaign, and it takes these guys like 3. So I'm definitely not going to be able to compete, but it's more to see if this build would work as a league starter. Can I just commit my weekend to play POE, knowing that I can get my full Void Stones and then start farming on Monday when I'm back at work? Thank you very much for watching. Take care and see you in the next one.